Hey guys, what's going on? Inception here, and welcome to another video. Guys, we have a new tier list to check out today. Honestly, for this promo, most of these cards are actually pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, they're actually pretty good. A lot of these cards that you would not necessarily use in the past have been turned into some very, very solid players. You know, like they'll take certain things into consideration, like, oh, his dribbling might be a certain way, but will make his attacking AI really sick. You know, just stuff like that, which is obviously definitely a very welcome inclusion for these types of cards, because I would say a good 80% of them are actually pretty decent for what they are. Okay, so obviously, guys, with this tier list, it is going to be opinion based. Not a lot of people are going to agree with it, but that's just from my experience when it came to trying out a lot of these cards. Okay, so guys, with these cards, we're going to go ahead and start off with Dennis Bergkamp. With this card, they actually did a really good job with him. Honestly, I think they did a really good job with him. Some things with him, it's very interesting because obviously you give him the engine chemistry style. So the engine chemistry style is going to boost the pace, the passing, and the dribbling of the card as much as possible. It's a really well formatted card for the most part, because most of the shots you'll be taking with a card like this will be inside of the 18-yard box, which he does a pretty solid job at doing. The pace being there, the dribbling being there, the passing being there, just makes the card very usable. But what's interesting about him is that, you know, when you give him the average body type and dribbling stats like that on an engine chemistry style, I didn't really mind it that much in game. One, because obviously I use the 5-star skills more than anything, but two, you know, because of the fact that, you know, in game, I just didn't really care too much about it. You notice it sometimes, of course, but not enough for you to really, really dislike it because of the skill moves being a thing. And also, when it came to like the attacking AI of the card, I couldn't care less that he was on a medium work rate. Like, it actually felt like he was playing on a different work rate. So yeah, they definitely did a very good job with this card because it's probably the best version that he's ever had in FIFA, to be honest with you. So in this case, we are going to be adding him into the A tier category. Very, very solid card to use on the top divisions if you actually get your hands on him. Some good stuff. There's some very, very good stuff. Next up we have is going to be the Essien card. So with Essien's card, we just did his review today. They formatted this card very nicely. If you play him in the role that he's supposed to play, in my opinion, if you're playing like a 4-3-2-1, stay back while attacking cover center, CDM, stay back while attacking cover center, maybe a cut pass lane depending on what you're feeling. Or this, I play like a 3-4-2-1, which I feel like I want a little bit more agile players there, but he could totally play there if you want there as well. The reason why this card is so nice is because on an anchor chemistry style, he's a lengthy player. Lengthy player with a 4-star weak foot, so you can pretty much use him in any of the positions. And if you use him as your more defensive-oriented card, he actually performs pretty solid in game because the lengthy will push the pace out of the card, right? Which obviously is very, very helpful to work with if you are trying to build your team up a certain way. So with Michael Essien, another card that definitely joins the A tier category. Definitely a card you could play in the top tier divisions and do a lot of work with. Next up, going to be Roberto Carlos. So with Roberto Carlos, the only two things that I noticed with the card feeling a little bit off is obviously going to be on the ball dribbling, which I don't really care that much about being a left back. Like, obviously you want players that can dribble at least a little bit better, but it's a defensive player, so it's not necessarily a big deal. And the other thing is obviously lack of physical presence, right? Sometimes you'll notice the lack of physical presence, but what I will say is that on a consistent basis, his AI was doing really, really good stuff for me. And obviously in his case, you know, having the shooting capabilities, having the passing capabilities, weak foot being at a 3-star is not necessarily the best, but he has the 5-star skill moves to get into certain positions at the right time. You know, moving scoop, turn L1 elastical to beat certain defenders, especially if you're on that overlap instruction, it's very, very solid to work with, right? So definitely another card that, in my opinion, joins the A tier category. It's a card that I would definitely use in the top tier divisions, maybe not necessarily pro player level. You know, that's like a different breed, but yeah, he's very, very solid as well. Most of these A tiers are going to be cards you can use in top tier divisions and just do a lot of work with. They're just going to be very, very, very solid. Next up we have is Casillas. So Casillas, what we're going to do with him is I'm actually going to be adding this card into the B tier category. So he's a very 50-50 person. Here's how I would line up my tier list, okay? This is how I would explain it personally, okay? So In the S tier, it would basically be like a Team of the Year icon, Van der Sar, right? In the A tier, I would put players like the Martinez card, you know, the Team of the Year nominee one. I'd put Martinez there. I would put someone like Ederson there. Other ones that pop into mind, honestly, you guys should try out the Kevin Trapp card. That card I was like really surprised at, right? But that's like an example of what I would do for like the S and the A tier. I wouldn't consider the Casillas card, although an FC Porto legend, I wouldn't consider him on those types of tiers for as a goalkeeper, right? So B tier, I would put him in the 50-50 range. Like I said, I don't think he's like that Ederson type of dude, right? So I think a B tier makes a lot of sense for how the card kind of performs in game. It's possible to use them in the top tier divisions. B and up, you'll be able to use them. Obviously for B, it'll depend more for skill, but you guys will know what I'm talking about. So yeah, some pretty decent stuff there. Next up we have is Del Piero. So Del Piero, listen, man, this is going to be like really opinion based, but I thought Del Piero was awesome to use. Like I really enjoyed him. I think it's tough, man, because he, in my opinion, is like an in-between of an S and an A. The reason why is because this card on an engine chemistry style in-game performs really, really well. I thought he was fantastic. You know, the 5-star capabilities, the high medium work rates, 5'9" height. So even though he is a person that has low balance, his unique body type kind of helps it out a little bit. The fact that I can play this card in a way where, you know, I was using him in the 4-3-2-1 formation, playing as my stay central, get behind player. It's just great to kind of use him in that role, as well as the role of comeback and defense for that left forward position in the 4-3-2-1. It worked out perfectly fine as well. Didn't really mind it whatsoever. The only thing that's going to be on the lower side, similar to the Dennis Bergkamp card, is pace when it comes to breaking through the defense, right? So that's the only reason why I don't put him in the S tier category, because pace is obviously very relevant if you get into those certain situations. Having that extra pace is very, very important to work with. So it's going to be another card that I add into the A tier. Debatable for him, because I would actually put him between an S and an A. I thought the card was absolutely brilliant. He's super, super enjoyable to use. I loved him. If you guys didn't watch the review, be sure to do so. He was great. Absolutely fantastic. Next up we have is going to be the Landon Donovan card. So we actually ended up doing the review for this card as well recently. I gave this card an engine chemistry style, as well as the Hawk chemistry style. So Hawk will boost the pace, shooting, and physicality of the card. Engine chemistry style will be boosting the pace, dribbling, and passing of the card. For me personally, I enjoyed him the most on an engine because my general gameplay experience is a little bit better. But obviously for shooting, like for lower percentage strikes, it's going to be a little bit less consistent. On the Hawk, it was a little bit more consistent to work with because obviously you boost that part of the card. But if you give him the Hawk, you notice the dribbling a little bit more, right? So for me personally, it's definitely a card that I could still totally see people using in the top tier divisions, depending on the types of teams that they're building. But it definitely joins the B tier category for me. Again, it's definitely more of a card you can definitely use in the top tier divisions, but it's more for skill than anything, right? Next up is going to be the Rio Ferdinand card. So with Ferdinand's card, this card, in my opinion, is really, really good. Solid card to use as well. On a shadow chemistry style, making him a lengthy player with really high acceleration, really high sprint speed, really high defense is fantastic. The only two things that's a little bit off of this card, and you guys will see from the S tier cards that we start adding at the top, right? The only things that are a little bit off is obviously going to be in the jumping department at an 85, as well as the medium work rate. I do feel like it's always way more ideal to have a card that is either a medium high work rate player in that defensive position. The jumping part of the card honestly annoys me mainly in the corner kick tactic. The corner kick tactic was super annoying to deal with on certain occasions, but obviously he kind of makes up for it when it comes to physical presence. I don't rate him on the S tier category because you guys will see who I end up putting there, but definitely again another A tier category card. All of these cards in this position can definitely play in the top tier divisions and do a pretty solid job for you. Keane was the SBC card that they actually ended up releasing not too long ago. It is a card that has been formatted very nicely, right? They gave him a bunch of stuff to make him a very solid CDM, and I do feel bad for people that did Gattuso's card because in my opinion, this card is better, right? He's a card that is taller at 5'11", average body type. Gattuso being smaller, you know, like you're gonna have to work with a little bit more. The taller guys, they play the meta a little bit better, right? But not only that, they gave this card a lengthy accelerate on a shadow chemistry style, right? So boosting his pace and his defense to be as high as possible while working with physical stats that are already there. The only thing that's low is going to be the jumping. That's perfect for what you need in that CDM role, right? So if I'm playing this 4-2-4 formation that I showed you guys recently and he's my stay back while attacking center mid, I would be perfectly fine with that. The only thing that I have to work with sometimes is obviously in the dribbling department because he's 5'11 with an average body type, but it's a card that's going to defend for you. That's the whole point of him being there, right? And does he do a really good job at doing that? Absolutely. He has really good defensive animations, in my opinion. So very, very solid card. They definitely did a very good job with him. 400k, I'm okay with that, especially for a card that is pretty much going to be out for a minute. You know, he's going to be out for a minute. The price is fair. He's going to be out for a minute. You can't really go wrong with him, right? So again, definitely another card that joins the A tier category. You can use him in top divisions and do work with him. Miroslav Klose. So with Miroslav Klose, these are cards that I just don't see being used in the top tier divisions. They did a good job with him in regards to making him more usable, because here's the thing. I was explaining this in the review as well. The attacking AI, it just feels better on these cards. I don't know what they did to it, but it feels better on these cards. You know, he has the 5-star weak foot, 6-foot height, so it's going to be usable in that sense, right? Absolutely. But if you're playing next gen FIFA in the top tier divisions, the thing that you would have to work with the most is obviously heading capabilities. I don't really see people do that too often unless they're going for headers from like corner kicks and all that kind of stuff to score their opportunities. So that's where I feel like it could be a little bit more debatable. I think in the tier list, the B and the C tier, they're not too far off of each other, honestly. But I think for Miroslav Klose, I'll add him into the C tier. If you have a certain playstyle where you actually enjoy like heading in that type of stuff, the card's gonna be pretty solid at doing that type of stuff, because you have to understand that, you know, jumping at a 94, 96 for heading accuracy, he has a power header trait. So if that's your playstyle, the card is obviously gonna be in the higher tiers. But yeah, like I said, for this specific promo, putting them at the C tier, it doesn't actually mean that they're horrible, because like I said, this promo was actually pretty decent. They actually did a really, really solid job with it. Next up we have is the Lom card. So Lom's card, also another very good option. A lot of people are giving him the anchor chemistry style, which I personally don't agree with. I think for you to fully utilize this card, you either have to give him a hunter or a shadow, right? So a hunter is if you have him in a 3-back formation, playing in that right mid position, being the attacking and defensive oriented card, mainly on that comeback and defense instruction. That's the thing that you would focus on the most, but it's a card that would be able to at least shoot a little bit for you with a hunter, and not a lot, because obviously the shooting is on the lower side, but it's the higher pace while working with dribbling, defensive stats being there as well, that allows you to use this card in different ways. Because even in the CDM position, if you're using this card next to a physical oriented midfielder, which is going to be very, very important, it's going to be usable in that sense. For me personally, I wouldn't necessarily use him as the attacking oriented center mid, although you can use him if you really want to in that way, because on a hunter, he still has very good high defensive stats. But it's definitely more of a card that you want to keep, I would say, on that like balanced role in a center mid, not necessarily like the get into the box like I showed you guys for the 4-3-2-1, but like a balanced role, like if I'm playing like a 4-3-3 in that area, or playing in a 1 of 2 midfield setup, being one of the guys that is going to be able to attack and defend sometimes for you, right? Because the attacking part mainly comes from him having the short and lean minus body type, good dribbling stats as a midfielder to kind of open up the space quickly as a midfielder, right? So another card that we are going to be adding into the A tier category. Very, very solid option to work with. Lucio, I don't want to talk about anything. Don't even look at me. S tier category. One of the best center backs in the game. This card is absolutely fantastic. Because listen, man, I was using Lucio next to Rio Ferdinand's card, and on a consistent basis, I'm like, dude, if this was Lucio, I would have done this. If this was Lucio, I would have done this. If I was aiming for perfection, playing in the top tier divisions and wanting to get my wins right away, this is the type of card you would use. Do I see pro players using him? Absolutely. He's one of the best center backs in the game. He's absolutely nasty, okay? He's an absolutely brilliant card, okay? There's really not much to say there. I mean, guys, you take a look at the card in game. What doesn't he have, right? So First off, he has the weak foot, 4-star weak foot, shadow chemistry style. He's in the 90s area with a 95 sprint speed on a lengthy. He's a person who has a medium high work rate, high and average body type, usually very good for defensive positions. Defensive stats perfect, physical stats without even improving in a good area as well while being 6'2". So there's really not much to say. One of the best center backs in the game, absolutely brilliant. Ljungberg. Another card that we're going to add into the B tier category. With Ljungberg, it's a card. See, this is the thing, right? No, I'm okay with Klose at C. I personally wouldn't use Klose at the top. Like Ljungberg and Donovan, if I'm building some sort of team and I want them to be like somewhat competent, I would use them. Like Casillas is the same way, right? But Klose, I personally wouldn't. So I'm okay with putting him in the B tier for now, right? But so with Ljungberg's card, it was another card that, dude, honestly, it's like, how am I going to explain this card? So when I did the review for the gold rated version of the card, it's a card that is usable in that right-sided position. So they gave him the high medium work rate on an engine chemistry style. You know, you get the right boost in the right areas, right? Shot power is on the lower side for sure. I'm not going to say that it isn't. But this card, it just feels like an upgraded version of the gold one. Like the work rate change, I didn't care about because in the side positions, as a medium work rate card, you just don't really care that they're medium nowadays because the work rate is perfectly fine. So for this card, on a high medium work rate, I didn't notice personally that big of a difference. Maybe if you use them in the striker position, you would, but this isn't a card that in the top tier divisions you would use in the striker area. Like you would have to use them in the side positions, like the right-sided area, to be able to contribute in the way that he does, right? Passing is going to be in a good area. Pace will be in a decent area. Also with the dribbling as well. So it'll be a card that's going to be usable if you use them in the right ways, right? So like I said, right-sided areas, it's a B tier card in my opinion. Fernando Torres, they did a great job with. I think this card is another very solid options to work with. In his case, some people give him a hawk chemistry style. 100%, you can give him the hawk chemistry style. You boost the physical, the shooting, and the pace. For me personally, I got to give him an engine because for me, I notice on a consistent basis that I have to play against the park the bus people, right? So once I get to that sort of position, I need to have a card that will dribble the ball nicely once he's in the right position at the right time. Because this is another card like the Dennis Bergkamp where, to be fair, the prime version was like this too, but he was just missing certain things to be like really good. Torres is a type of card that, you know, he has the right attacking AI. Obviously, with dribbling, you did have to work with it sometimes because he's a high and average body type player at a 6'1" height. So regardless, you're going to work with that, right? But the engine makes this card very sick because his shooting for base card stats is already in a good area. I don't care about his shot power being lower because I would work for higher percentage strikes inside the 18-yard box to score my opportunities, which he did a very solid job at. The 5-star weak foot is an absolutely massive plus for this card, and it allows you to perform really well. If you're okay with the dribbling, which I'm not, right? I have to boost it. A hawk chemistry style would not be a bad choice either because of the way that you boost his physical shooting and pace, right? Yaya Toure. Another card I'm adding into the S tier category. Yaya Toure. Dude, it's so interesting with this card, right? Because Yaya Toure in game, he just performs like way better than you could even think, right? And it was the same thing for his blue card. When I tried out his blue card in a foot draft, I'm like, why is this card so amazing? He's just absolutely insane. They give him the right stats, all in the right positions. You know, he's a lengthy player in a shadow. He's in the 90s position. His defensive stats is really high. It's funny because this card has higher, you know, interceptions in the high 80s area, 84 for defensive awareness. He's a medium work rated card, but you couldn't care less about those things. You genuinely couldn't. You couldn't care less because Yaya Toure in game is a monster. Okay, he's an absolute beast. 100% an S tier card. It's one of those cards where it's like, I have a medium as a midfielder. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't. He's a card that's a beast. I played him in like the first 2 or 3 games. I think it was like during foot champs. And I was like, dude, look at this card just like around the 18-yard box. He just does stuff for me, you know? And it's funny because this card is not even supposed to be used as an attacking oriented center mid. But if you want to, you could totally do it with him and he would actually score a lot of opportunities for you, right? Because he's more of a card that for me, I would keep on that 4-3-2-1, stay back while attacking cover center, 3-4-2-1, playing as one of 2 midfielders. Like either or, he'll play really well. And yeah, it doesn't matter for him. He's a beast. He's an absolute monster to use in game. And then Zidane, also another card I'm putting in the S tier. Zidane is, in my opinion, one of the best. Like if you play a 4-3-2-1 formation, right? And you're using this card as your attacking oriented center mid, it's so sick to use him there because one, on the attack, he's absolutely incredible, right? The 5-star capability, base card stats for shooting already being there, anchor chemistry style, making him a lengthy, which makes his attacking AI runs really good. Guys, listen, cards like this, they're not supposed to work in the main attacking positions, but if you want to use them in the main attacking positions, you 100% could do that, and they would still do an amazing job for you, okay? Zidane is great to use in that position. It's a card that whenever I do like the 4-3-2-1 review, I'm like, guys, if you use this card as your attacking oriented center mid, he's going to be so sick to use there. Like, he's just going to be an absolute beast. So, yeah, definitely added into the S tier category. For me, with the S tier category, these are cards that I could actually see at a high certainty pro players using in their teams, right? Rio Ferdinand is also another card that I would make that argument for, as well as the Del Piero card, but I don't put these two on the same level as these three. Like these three, they have like that thing, you know, like that thing in game that makes them really, really sick. But it's hard for me to not put Rio Ferdinand and Del Piero there because they're absolutely incredible players. Honestly, these two, I would put them in between. I would put them in between an A and an S for sure. 100% they'd be put into an A and an S. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the tier list. Like I said, guys, this promo was actually very, very solid. A lot of these cards are actually pretty decent to use in game. And yeah, if you guys end up packing up any of the A tiers and up, like you're chilling. In the top tier divisions, they will do work for you. They did such unique and good things to them to make them very, very solid cards to use. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this video today, and I'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace out, dudes. Love you guys.